Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Mr. Grable in our Grade 3 ELA class, English Language Arts, where we read from the collections book called Tales, Princesses, Peas, and Enchanted Trees. And our tale today is called The Enchanted Pitcher. I think that's like a bowl. Retold by Howard Schwartz and Barbara Rush. Illustrated by Tadeusz Majewski. Long ago, in the land of Iraq, there lived a potter who was very poor. He worked hard from morning till night, making pots and pitchers, but even so, he barely earned enough to feed his family. This potter had a young daughter whose name was Rachel. She loved to watch her father work. One day the potter let her make a pot by herself, and she shaped it like a vase. Next, she added a handle to make the vase into a pitcher. Oh, what a beautiful pitcher it was! Small and round and perfectly formed. Rachel painted lovely flowers on it and decorated the handle with olive leaves. Then she held it in her hands and looked inside. To her surprise, she saw a little puddle of olive oil at the bottom. And as she watched, the oil rose slowly in the pitcher. "Father, Father," she called, "come see." Her father came running. "It's a miracle," he cried. He sniffed the precious oil and watched it rise, as if it was enchanted. The pitcher filled itself with oil to the very rim and then stopped. Rachel and her father dipped their fingers into the oil and tasted it. Much to their delight, they discovered that it was the finest oil they had ever tasted. "How I wish we could give this oil to your grandmother," the potter said. "She hasn't had any olive oil for many months." "Oh, Father, let me take it to her," Rachel said. Her father answered, "No, Rachel, it is far too far. It is too far to grandmother's house, and you are too young to go by yourself." But Rachel begged and pleaded and promised she would be careful. And at last, her father agreed to let her go. The potter hitched their only donkey to a wooden cart. He carefully loaded the pitcher filled with olive oil. Then he added 4 jugs that were closed with corks. Rachel was to take them to grandmother too. 1 jug was filled with milk, another with honey, 1 with wine, and 1 with vinegar. Finally, Rachel kissed her father goodbye and set out on the long road to grandmother's house. Rachel drove the cart very slowly so the pitcher would not be shaken. But soon the cart went over a little bump in the road, and some of the olive oil spilled out. "Oh dear," Rachel thought. "How will I ever get this oil to grandmother's house without spilling it?" Just then she heard a scratchy voice from somewhere inside the wagon. "Rachel, the road to your grandmother's house is very long. I can get you there in a wink. But you must give me all of your oil." Now Rachel was not the least bit frightened when she heard the voice. In fact, she was angry. And even though she didn't know who she was speaking to, she said, "What good would it do if I arrived without the oil? No, thank you. I will get to grandmother's by myself." There was no answer. Rachel drove on, but she had gone only a little farther down the road when she passed over another bump, and a little more of the oil spilled out. As Rachel was wondering what to do, the scratchy voice piped up again. "Rachel, I can get you to grandmother's in a wink, but you must give me all of your oil." Again Rachel said, "No, thank you. I will get there by myself." As she drove on, she had gone only a little farther down the road when the cart struck a huge bump and almost tipped over. Nearly all the oil spilled out. Rachel felt like crying. What should she do now? Again, the voice spoke up. "Rachel, I can get you to your grandmother's in a wink, but you must give me all of your oil." By this time, Rachel knew that the voice was coming from one of the jugs. She became furious. "Where are you, you naughty thing? It was you who caused the oil to spill." She began to pull the corks out of the jugs. There was nothing odd in the jug of milk, nor in the jug of honey, nor in the jug of wine. But when she pulled the cork out of the vinegar jug, poof! Rachel suddenly found herself sitting in front of her grandmother's house. Dun, 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 dun. Oh boy. How did I get here? Rachel asked aloud. And from behind her, a scratchy voice answered. "Rachel, it was I who brought you here." Rachel quickly turned around. A little man was sitting on the floor of the cart. His pants and shirt were baggy, and he wore a stocking cap on his head. He looked very annoyed indeed. "I am the imp who is hiding in the jug of vinegar," he said. "You pulled out the cork, so I brought you here as quick as a wink. You never promised me the oil, but that oil should be mine," he cried. He stamped his foot in anger, then he vanished into thin air. Rachel was relieved that the imp was gone. She jumped down from the cart and hurried to the door. "Grandmother, grandmother," she called, "see what I have brought you." Grandmother and Rachel kissed and hugged each other with joy. Then Rachel brought the jugs into the house, one at a time. How pleased grandmother was to see one jug filled with milk, one with honey, one with wine, and one with vinegar. Rachel returned to the cart to get her own beautiful pitcher. She looked inside and saw that only a single drop of oil was left. She began to cry, but when she picked the pitcher up, it began to fill again, just as it had the first time. Lo and behold, the oil kept rising until the pitcher was completely full. "What miracle is this?" cried grandmother. "Rachel, my child, tell me what happened." So Rachel told her grandmother about the pitcher she made and about how it filled with oil. She told about the journey to grandmother's house and the voice from the jug and the little man. Her grandmother nodded wisely. "Oh, Rachel," she said, "you have made an enchanted pitcher." If you had taken the imp's offer, the pitcher would never have filled with oil again. Now it will always fill again, whenever you hold it in your hands. And that is exactly what happened. Rachel poured that wonderful olive oil into every empty jug in her grandmother's house. Together, they put the jugs into the cart and took them to the village to sell. This time, Rachel's cart did not hit a single bump, nor did she spill a single drop of oil. Soon there were enough gold coins to buy grandmother everything she would need for a long, long time. From then on, the enchanted pitcher supplied all the olive oil Rachel could ever use. Whenever she wished for more, she simply held the pitcher in her hands. And so it was that Rachel and her family were never poor again. And they gladly shared the wealth from their enchanted pitcher with all those who were in need. Wow, that reminds me of another story. Maybe it reminds you of something too. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope maybe you'll watch it again. Enjoy it. Have a great day. Bye-bye.